Hello and welcome to 50 Fabulous Knits. My name is Pia. I am a Danish knitter coming to you from my home just outside of Copenhagen, where I live with my husband Peter, my best friend Anne, and my little dog Feely. You saw Feely knitting with me in the introduction video. Chances are you'll also hear her snoring throughout the episode. She's an old lady. She's, 14, 15 years old? I don't know exactly. She's a rescue. But I hope that you'll be okay with the snoring. I'm back with an episode in English again. Because I really wanted to give a big thank you to everyone who reached out with love and support after my last episode. I was gonna say I don't have any words, but then I realized that's a really bad start to a podcast. So I'm gonna go with I'm overwhelmed. I can never thank you enough. I really love this 50 Fabulous family, this wonderful community that we're building around this podcast. So thank you. One of you was kind enough to let me know that she had found me through the podcast that is called The Kitchen Knitter. Thank you so much for saying that. Not only did it give me the opportunity to actually thank The Kitchen Knitter, but it also showed me a wonderful new podcast, or a new to me podcast that I'm really enjoying. So I'm going to leave a link to her podcast in my show notes, and those can be found on my blog. I'm gonna post a link to the blog in the description box below. That'll take you directly to all the show notes for this and all the previous episodes, where I'll then link to the things that I talk about and show on this podcast. Last week, I started a knit-along. On a whim, it's safe to say, but I have been enjoying it so much. So yeah, I'm happy with my brilliant idea. It is the Knit and Be Kind knit-along. If you use this hashtag when you post on Instagram, sharing the kindness in knitting, then you partake in this knit-along. And come April 21st, I will use random number generator to draw some prizes. And yes, there's gonna be more than one prize, because I came up with a prize package that we're gonna talk more about when we come to works in progress. But there were also two lovely viewers who reached out and offered to generously donate some prizes for you. So the Lux Knitter on Instagram, and again I will post a link to her Instagram, she offered some of her beautiful handmade jewelry for a prize. And one of the Danish viewers, and I don't know if you want me to mention your name, so I'm not gonna until I've talked with you about it, but she actually went and bought a skein of my own hand-dyed yarn and then offered it up as a prize for the knit-along. That was so generous of you. She chose the colorway Tivoli, because as she said, Tivoli, that is, I love it, spelled backwards. So that's perfect for this knit-along. And I couldn't agree more. Tivoli is this very light speckled yarn with some springy colors to the speckles. When I was a child, Tivoli was only open in summer. We would go every spring when Tivoli opened. So to me, Tivoli will always be associated with spring. That's why we have these bright, springy colors in this colorway. So this is one of the prizes, and there are more prizes coming up, but I wanted to mention the two generous people first of all. Thank you so much. Today I am wearing my Calazo sweater, the winter version of my summer top. I showed you last week that I finished it, and today I'm wearing it and loving it. I am wearing it because this pattern will be released today. I have had a lot of help, both with the Brise pattern that I released last week and this pattern. So many people have helped me. They have read through my rough translations, helped me with my language, and actually also helped me figure out how to write a modern style pattern. I'm Danish. Knitting is in our DNA. We learn to knit in school. Well, I learned before. I learned when I was 5 by my grandmother. The patterns that we used to knit from were, they were, today you'd say they were really rough, because it was just, yeah, you do this, this, and this, and then you figure it out. By the way, everything was knit flat and then seamed together. It was terrible, bottom up and all. I love all the new techniques, and I also love the new patterns. They're so much more helpful to a new knitter. So I'm really grateful to the people who helped me read through my pattern translations and point out where I was leaving the knitter alone. So thank you so much for that. That is so helpful. The Calazo. This one is a winter version of the original summer top. And I'm just going to pop a photo of the original here. As you can see, this was made as a very extremely oversized. I think there's almost 60 centimeters of ease in this. Extremely oversized, open and airy summer knit. And I have gotten so much wear out of this. So I decided, I want to make a winter version. I wanted a denser fabric, and I wanted long sleeves, obviously, for winter. So I went ahead and did that. I knit this by holding 2 strands of yarn together, where the original is just knit on 1 strand of drops brushed alpaca silk in a very open gauge. You're working with needle 6 millimeters, so it's a very open gauge. And this is still a quite open gauge, but it has a lot more warmth to it. So I held together 1 strand of my own hand-dyed yarn in my base that is called Solstrife. That is 100% superwash merino in a sport weight. I used the colorway Storbjörn or Big Bear. All my colorways are named after fairy tales. That's a little silly, but also kind of nice. I held the sport weight merino together with 1 strand of kit silk, a mohair, and that gave a lot of warmth to it, but also a denser fabric that is much more suited for the colder months. So the pattern that I'm releasing has instructions for both. When I was working with this pattern, it was so funny because I had, in my mind, it was this extremely oversized thing. Then I knit this with a lot less ease. I think I have only around 20 centimeters of ease in this one. But then I saw my sister-in-law, my beautiful sister-in-law here, wearing it with close to no ease. I think she has an inch or maybe, yeah, around an inch of ease. And it just looks amazing. So well, not to toot my own horn, but it seems to be a very versatile pattern that can be used in so many different ways, with so many different fits to it. And I really love the more fitted version, especially as she's wearing it over her dress. It just looks beautiful. The pattern comes with sizes from 54.5 inches up to 71.3 inches of bust circumference, and that is the measurements of the finished garment. So you can choose how much ease you want to build into your Calazo sweater. For this one, I was, as I said, using hand-dyed yarn. I did not alternate skeins. This is clearly an example of do as I say, not as I do. It could have gone terribly wrong, but it didn't. There's no pulling, and you can't tell where I changed skeins. So I was lucky, but I was prepared to rip back if I wasn't lucky. And for that, I have a little tip, because ripping back in mohair can be laborious. Should we say laborious? What you can do, and I'm sure a lot of you already knows this, but if there's just one person who doesn't know, this is a really good tip. Put it in the freezer for a couple of hours. It is so much easier to rip back then. This is when you're working with mohair. I don't think you need to do it with other yarns, but anything fluffy that is just difficult to rip back, pop it in the freezer and it'll be a lot easier. I also have a finished object this week. I started knitting the Regan Cardigan. It is designed by Isabel Kramer, and last week I was just telling you how much I love this pattern. I love it even more now that I finished the cardigan. It is beautiful. I'm gonna wear it on a later episode because it's not warm enough to wear here, but yeah, maybe you can see, if I stand up, you can see that you have this open fronted cardigan with this asymmetrical fit, that you have it much shorter in front than in back, and it's just so beautiful. It's just this casual yet elegant cardigan that you can just put over a t-shirt or a summer dress and you're fine to actually go out, or if it just gets a little bit cold, if you come into air conditioning. I'm Danish, I'm not used to air conditioning. It's super cold. So yeah, this one will definitely save me when I'm traveling. This is also knit in my hand-dyed yarn. I didn't swatch for this. I didn't alternate skeins. Really bad knitter. In my defense, I will say that the clever way that this cardigan is constructed, actually what you start out by knitting is sort of a large size gauge swatch. So that was okay. And yeah, I was lucky again. No pulling, no obvious changes where I changed to another skein. It's just beautiful. I knitted in a sock yarn, a fingering weight superwash merino nylon blend, and it is just this very light summer cardigan, flowy, beautiful. Such a great pattern. I have nothing but good things to say about this pattern. I made no modifications whatsoever, which is kind of rare. I knit it completely to pattern and I love it. Isabel Kramer is a genius. I must say, she is a genius and I am loving this cardigan. It's also a lot of fun to knit it because first you have this long stretch of just plain stockinette, which is TV knitting, and then you go into the beautiful lace work here. It's such an intuitive pattern. I mean, you look at the chart for maybe 1.5 repeat and then you're just good to go. It knits itself. And I love knitting something with a repeat because then you always want to just knit one more row. You just want to finish this repeat or check what happens when you reach this repeat. So it flew off the needles and yeah, I'm very happy with it. I have done a little work, now some work on a few of my other projects. My taro sweater is now in the very final phase, I will say. Look at this. Finished the body, finished one sleeve, very close to finishing the second sleeve. Oh, I just want to finish this final little bit of color work, do some ripping, and I'm done. Yay! It is beautiful. For this one, I did make some modifications. I knitted a lot shorter than the pattern calls for a couple of reasons. I'm working with a superwash yarn and I know that it's gonna grow. Also, it is designed to be 65 centimeters. I don't know what that is in inches, but that is a pretty long sweater. On most people, it will be just below the hip, I think. And on me, I think I mentioned it last time, I have a ridiculously short torso. So I knitted at least 5 centimeters shorter, I think even more than the pattern calls for. And I'm sure it's gonna fit me perfectly. I tried it on, of course, pre-blocking, and it's gonna be perfect. I also made some changes to the ripping because one of the Danish podcasters, Annie from Forever Knitting, who unfortunately only podcasts in Danish, she actually wrote to me and said that she'd been looking at pictures of the taro sweater online and they all seem to have a sort of twist in the rib, like the rib was pulling sideways. And I went and I looked at the photos and I could see she was right. It was definitely pulling the ribbing. And first I thought, it's probably because they're knit in an unspun yarn. They can have a tendency to pull a little. But then I actually read the pattern, yay. And I could see that the ribbing consisted of a lot of little sections of mock cable, all turning the same way. So of course that will eventually pull a bit on the ribbing. So I opted for a simple 1x1 twisted rib instead, and I think it looks beautiful for this sweater, and I don't have to worry about it starting to pull. So yeah, those are my only modifications. The sleeves I also knit a bit shorter because not because my arms are not short, it's only my torso, But I could see on the photos that the sleeves are pretty long and often worn with a folded cuff, which is not my preference. So I decided to just make them a little bit shorter. I am so gonna finish this tonight so I can vlog it and have my Teru sweater finished, done. It is beautiful. The pattern, I should say that, is by Junko Okamoto, a Japanese designer who she does amazing work. It's every time I go to her page on Ravelry, I'm like, so little time, so much knitting. I just want to knit basically everything that she does. But yeah, very, very happy that I chose this one because I think it is so pretty. I knitted on size 3.75 millimeters. Are they a 4? In the US sizes, I think so, probably. I am a very loose knitter. I think for most people, 4 millimeters would be the right choice. But yeah, this worked out beautifully. I'm knitting it in Drops Merino Extra Fine, which is this DK weight merino. I'm happy I chose a budget-friendly yarn because this one takes up a lot of yarn. I think I'm probably going to end up using 7-8 balls of yarn, something like that. And the contrasting color is actually the same color as this one is knit in Storbjörn, but then on my DK merino base, which is called Stuvine. And then I have a new cast on. A cast on that I have been longing for so long. It is the Pixelated Cardi by Knit Collage. And you're not going to be able to see anything from where I am with this. So I'm just going to put her pattern picture in here. It's beautiful. I bought the Spun Cloud last time I was in the US. You knit it with the Spun Cloud, which is this luxurious hand-spun woolly goodness with a bit of stellina in it. And then you use for the contrast on the yoke, you use her Wildflower, which is fabric that is cut in pieces. But when I was in the US, I couldn't get the color that I wanted of the Wildflower. So I ended up just buying the Spun Cloud, and I decided I can cut some fabric. And I did. And yeah, it looks beautiful. Let me see if I still have my leftovers yet. I do. I just ripped it and made this ball of yarn from some fabric. And it looks nice, but I'm never doing it again. It was a lot of work. Next time I'll probably just be patient and wait until the color that I want is back in stock. But here is where I am on it. I knit the yoke and then I separated for the sleeves. And I have decided to knit the sleeves first, because there is probably gonna, I'm gonna be doing the good old game of yarn chicken, I think. And I wanted to make sure that my sleeves were long enough, and then I could knit the body as long as I have the yarn for. And if it's too short, I'm just gonna have to order an extra skein of the Spun Cloud and finish it off with that. Because I made this yarn myself, it's a little thicker I can feel that it's a denser fabric than the spun cloud. So I am actually holding the spun cloud together with some brushed alpaca silk, almost the same color, just to give it that a little more fullness to it, and that is working out beautifully. You don't see like a big change from where I am using both yarns and down to the sleeve that is just the spun cloud and the brushed alpaca silk without this homemade yarn. This is so much fun to knit, and I absolutely adore this model. I did go up a size because I want it to be more of a little jacket than a cardigan per se. Yeah. What more can I say? I'm working on size 12mm TPNs. Not my favorite, but then again, it goes by fast, and I can't knit on really heavy needles for very long. They put a lot of stress on my hands. Sometimes I think that if I taught myself to knit the English style, where you like throw the yarn, it would probably be easier to knit with such big needles here. But yeah, one day that will happen. I love learning new skills, but it does look very complicated. It's so funny. I never knew that there were more than one style of knitting. That's just something that came to my attention very recently, within the last couple of years. I never thought about different knitting styles. I was just knitting the way my grandmother knit. That was knitting for me. But yeah, I am actually a bit curious to try out English knitting, especially for heavier, thicker needles. I think that'll be helpful. The last thing that I have been working on is another new cast on, and now we're back to the Knit and Be Kind Knitalong, because what I am doing is I am making a new shawl pattern. I am knitting it out of my own sock yarn, and one of the prizes for the cow will be a kit with the yarns for this shawl and the pattern. And since it's sock yarn, you don't have to use it obviously for this shawl. You can use it for a socks or for another shawl or whatever you want to use it for. But I thought it would be nice to have like a kit as a prize. So I didn't get much work done on it because yeah, the tarot has taken up most of my knitting time this week. But it's a very classic triangular shawl, knit from the top down. Yeah, so maybe if I hold it like this is going to be the neckline. And first there will be a section of this speckled yarn. This is my Snehvide or Snow White colorway. Then there will be a little section of some color work, and then there will be a section with the lace pattern from this Calazo. So it's going to be the Calazo shawl. The color work I'm going to put in this one, Vesten for Moon, West of the Moon. It's a very dark, variegated gray. And it's going to be super simple color work. Yeah, I haven't completely made up my mind yet, but it's going to be simple. And then the lace section, I will just knit in the undyed yarn, the undyed sock yarn, and the camera is blowing that out anymore, yeah. So that the pattern really can speak for itself. And then I'm going to finish off the shawl with an edging of the Snow White colorway. So this is the yarn that the winner will receive. Not a full skein of this because you're not going to use a full skein. So that's just going to be what you will need for this shawl and then the pattern. I hope you're excited for that. I'm so excited for this knit along, and I hope you are too. It is so nice to go on Instagram and just see people's kindness, see how they think about kindness, think about how to be kind in their knitting. Maybe they're being kind to someone else by knitting a present for them, or maybe they're being kind to themselves, or they're sending kindness to designers or little makers. I love it. That was it for the knitting content this week. The rest of the podcast is just going to be me chatting away about life in general. If you're not here for that, I totally appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again next week. Yeah, because life in general, nothing much to talk about. I've been really busy. Peter and I are preparing for our trip. We're gonna go to Texas to visit our son and our lovely daughter-in-law, Maria. Hi, Maria. I know you're watching, sweetie. And our precious grandson, little John. In order to be able to enter the US, we need to quarantine for 2 weeks outside of the Schengen area. So at the end of next week, we're going to go to Dubai, quarantine there for a little more than 2 weeks, just to be sure. And then we're going to go to Texas. Yay, Texas. I can't wait. I don't know how to keep all this happiness inside my body. But yeah, we're going to be there really soon. But it all means that we're going to be away from home for almost 7 weeks. So we've been super busy finishing up stuff, tying off loose ends, and trying to make arrangements so that everything can run relatively smoothly here while we're gone. I've been dyeing up yarn like a mad woman, and yeah, we've been working pretty hard. And in the evenings, we've just collapsed on the sofa, watching podcasts or old reruns of TV shows that we've seen before. I've been listening to a really great audiobook that was actually able to keep me awake and keep me focused, which is a lot under these circumstances. That was The City of Girls by Elizabeth Gilbert. I really recommend you give it a read if you like books, these extravagant tales about a life that is well lived. And it's also a story of how much the role of women has changed since the start of the book, which is in the 40s and in the war years, and up until, well, almost present day. So yeah, it's super great read. I totally recommend it. Give it a read if you haven't. If you have any good suggestions for books for me to read next, please let me know in the comments. I started reading a book by a Danish author. Unfortunately, it's not translated. I don't know. I have mixed feelings about this book because I love the story, but I really don't like the main character. She's so annoying. This judgmental, uptight woman that you just want to grab her and hold her really tight until she relaxes. Yeah, but I'm gonna finish it because I really like the story. But if you have any suggestions for good books for me to read, please let me know. I'm always looking for new books to enjoy. I've always been a reader and a knitter. I was a hit in school, I'm sure you can all guess, but now I'm enjoying both immensely. I think I'm gonna end things here. I think I've been talking for quite a while, haven't I? I hope that you will have a wonderful day, a wonderful week. I hope you'll participate in the Knit and Be Kind Knitalong, and I hope to see you again next week. Thank you so much for watching.